Welcome to the Minds on a Mission podcast, the podcast where we explore the journeys that challenge us, change us, and chart the best course for our best selves. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music /Audible, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Deezer, Podbean, and Buzzsprout. I'm your host, Samantha Bailey, an entrepreneur and content creator. And today's lovely guest is Caleb Bullard. Did I say that right?
Yes, you got it right.
Okay. I just try to make sure because I'm like, I hate butchering names. How are you today?
I am great, blessed and highly favored. I actually was able to escape the hurricane that just rolled through Tampa. Prayers are going out for everybody down there in the Tampa region. But thankfully, I had a friend up here in Atlanta, came to visit him, staying in his place for a few days. And life's all about keeping the commitments that you make. So I told Samantha, hey, I'm going to get on this call. Regardless of what happens, hurricane or whatever, we're going to make this thing happen. So here we are, a couple minutes late, but we're going to make it happen here.
Yep, some technical difficulties. I do apologize that. And I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but I did change my intro. I have been having some issues with the intros and the outros because I was trying to do it for each guest and it just was getting kind of conjumbled and over the place. So I have a new intro and a new outro. So I hope you guys like these a lot better. And I will not have any more issues with that. So I usually at the beginning like to ask, because I know there's some people that may not know you, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any other New Yorkers on this call, but I grew up in New York, Buffalo, New York there, and went through school, traditional family kind of deal, and went to the military right out of high school, was in the Army for 6 years as a combat medic. I don't know if anybody else has served in their country, but if you have, thank you for your service. We appreciate your service. And from there, I experienced a back injury, but regardless, I went to college, I got my associate's degree, became a police officer, but realized after a couple of years with the weight of the vest, the belt, all that on my lower back, I needed to find another occupation. Now, if there's anybody else on this call that's ever had like an epiphany in their life, kind of like they made a pivot, made a change with the direction that we're taking. And we talk about like entrepreneurism on this call and maybe pivoting from something that you're doing previously. Well, when I saw the markets crash and my grandparent have to go back to work a part-time job because he had what's called a 401k, where it's tied to the market. If the market goes down, your account value goes down. If it goes up, your account value goes up. But when it went down, he didn't want to pull funds from his retirement account when it was already down. So he went back, worked a part-time job. And to see that hurt me because my grandparents worked very hard for 30 plus years. And I was like, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And that's when I set on the right information to find the solution to that issue that people are facing. So Forbes has come out and said 401ks have failed Americans. It's only about a 4.2% return over the last 20 years. So I ended up finding the right information, and now in the financial services space, just helping families retire tax-free and really supercharge their current investments.
It's awesome. So you said you were in the Army?
Yeah, I was in the Army. I was National Guard as a combat medic attached to the infantry. So it wasn't in the hospital. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go medical. It might be easier. It might be in the hospital or something like that. No, we're going straight to the infantry. So everything that they did, I did, and just it wasn't like one specific thing. It was a culmination of things that led to a back injury. But I really believe that the Lord allows like different things to happen in your life, good, bad, or whatever, and it's just up to you to use those and leverage them for something good. So that back injury, obviously, if I go back, I wish it never happened, but because it did, it's changed the trajectory of my course, and now I'm helping people escape a problem that's near and dear to my heart. And I found my fulfillment doing it, and it was different road doors that closed that led me to the right door into what I'm doing now and finding my fulfillment and helping others.
Yeah, I've noticed that's like a big thing with a lot of people is it's always something that seems like like a big pain point that people could consider as like a negative in their life, but it always is like the thing that like propels them into something else and like into their careers, which is like really cool to hear about. So was there something specific about going into the Army that interested you, or it's kind of what I'm curious about?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody ever on this call grew up, maybe more so guys than girls, but like watching war movies, hearing stories from relatives that maybe served in the country. And I just grew up with like a strong desire to serve, and then also a strong amount of patriotism running in my blood because my dad was a jarhead. You know, if you know what that means, it means he was a Marine. And also hearing the stories from that and how it shaped and molded his life and helped him out a lot in his early years, I was like, I want that same experience. So I ended up going Army instead of the Marines, but I'm really glad that I did. And they instill really great disciplines into you. And there's some great benefits you can receive. I mean, your VA loan, I mean, their house hacking, I was able to use my VA loan to buy my first duplex and then rent out the other side while I lived in the one. And there's so many great benefits along with, like I said, the discipline of it, teaching you leadership skills. They actually have an acronym for leadership: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. And it's just continuing to work on yourself every single day. And that really helps me now in the personal development, especially as an entrepreneur and a business owner, because it's you versus you. It's nobody else really holding you accountable. If you don't work, you don't get paid. So having those disciplines instilled in me at an early age has really helped launch me to where I am today.
That's awesome. And that makes me think too, like, so you're in the Army, so I kind of like to, like, break it down, like, go back to, like, you know what I mean? So I like to really understand, like, where people are coming
Sure.
from. So you transition from being in the Army into becoming a police officer, correct? So
Correct.
so what led to that transition? I wanna kinda break it up. So
Yeah.
what was that like?
For sure, for sure. Great question. Like I said, it was National Guard. So with National Guard, it's more of like a week a month than a weekend a month, like what the advertisements say. And it's like a month out of the year. But other than that, if you're not on a deployment, you're welcome to work a civilian job. So I went to college, got my associate's degree in science because I was a combat medic and I was torn. I was like, I don't know if I want to go the medical route, become like a physician's assistant or maybe an MD, or I could go the law enforcement route because I saw like, family members that were police officers and it's a great career, be able to provide for a family. But there was something that I noticed like from a young age. I don't know if you guys ever like been in church or ever had a missionary come through your church and got to see the really cool work that they were doing. It's very inspiring to see the amount of work that one person can do is great. But I thought to myself, what if I could have like a whole team doing that? What if I could support people to go and do that compared to just me, myself, making an impact? And that's led me into like the financial services space where now I have like a team. I have a team of 7 right now, and we're just crushing it. We're growing every single week, helping more families than we could by ourselves.
It's really cool. Um,
But yeah, so I went to college while I was in the army, went to college, became a police officer, and after the back injury, then I pivoted and made that switch.
right. And so it makes me think, with how many transitions you've had, like, from, you know what I mean, going from the Army to being a police officer to now being into, you said, like, financial services, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So, I was wondering, like, what are some lessons that you've learned from these high stake environments that you're applying to managing finances?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is people skills. There's a book out there that I really recommend reading, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It just really teaches you the way that people interact, kind of like the psychology behind people, and it's going to help you out a lot. There's another book called Verbal Judo that's recommended to a lot of police officers, but understanding human nature, how humans kind of interact and how to talk to people, and attending Toastmasters. There's been a lot of things along the way that have helped me with that. But I would say that the biggest piece that I took away from the military and law enforcement is communication and learning how to deal with different various cultures because every culture is a little bit different, different backgrounds, and that's really helped me now be able to scale compared to just only be able to help one certain kind of people because that's who I would have resonated with. The old Caleb would have resonated, can't even talk, resonated with. Now it can help a whole bigger group, much more diverse in the outreach that we can make and help people.
Right. And yeah, I know I was like I have that on my list. I had started, but I want to get back to that. But yeah, how to win friends and influence people. That's what I was like, oh yes, I have heard of that. But no, it makes me think. I'm like, I gotta go finish that because.
Right.
But yeah, I've heard that's like a big one in learning like communication and things like that. So I
Oh,
definitely agree.
100%. If anybody's like, I need book recommendations, like I could go on and on for days because they say like you really are. the result of the culmination of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And the cheat code to that is, maybe I don't have, like, thousands of dollars to go invest into a mentor or go to networking events starting out in my journey in entrepreneurism. Well, you can get books. You can get audiobooks as well. Like, while you're driving, instead of listening to music, throw on an audiobook, or maybe just some, like, YouTube books too. I mean, there's, like, YouTube videos, very, very knowledgeable information on there. And then another book that's kind of like the starter book for all entrepreneurs is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's so good. It's a little bit tougher of a read because it's, like, written, several years ago, but the principles still apply today. And there's different websites that can break down the book for you to help you understand it more clearly. But changing the way that you think about things, your perspective on things, is really gonna get you rolling down this path.
I agree. Sorry, I was just looking because I read some books last year. I've been kinda I need to get back into reading, but yeah, I had have you read, The Four Agreements?
I haven't. No, who's it written by so I can write it down?
Hold on. I have it written in my list of books I read, but hold on, let me look because I
Oh,
just
you're good.
it is by Don, so it's Don
Mhm.
Miguel, and then I don't know how to say it, Ruiz? It's Ruiz.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's another good one. I read quite a bit of books towards the end of last year. But then like another good one, it's called How to Talk to Anyone. So it's kind of similar to like the How to Win Friends and Influence People because you learn like how to communicate with people, um,
Yes.
How to Read People Like a Book. That was another one I read last year. So I definitely agree with that. And always love to recommend resources to people just because I, like, really started my journey last year, and I was one of those people where I was like, "What do I do? What books do I read? Where do I go?" So, a great resource I found, it's called Everand. It's Everand. It's like 12 or $13 a month. You can read and listen to almost any book out there for that, like, instead of, like, Audible where you have to pay I forget how much it is, but for only one
Yeah.
book, you can only get 1 book for the month. If you go on Everand, you can read how many ever books you want, listen to audiobooks. Um, they've even got, like, sheet music on there. There's
Oh,
so much
wow.
there's so much on there, and it's only, like, 12 or $13 a month, so I highly recommend it. They don't have everything, but they have almost everything. Like,
Sure.
a lot of books that I've been like, "Oh, I'm interested," like, I'll see it online, like, book recommendations. I'll go on there, and most of the time, it's on there.
I
Um,
love that. While we're on the topic of reading though, real quick, I found that, like, reading is good, like, it's definitely gonna help you, but, like, if you actually, like, study to implement while you're reading, it's going to really make a big impact in your life because you could read 100 books in a year and not implement any of what you learned and not see any difference, and, like, yes,
yeah.
it was good to learn the information, but it's not good enough to learn it. So I really don't read, like, a whole ton of books, to be honest, because I study them. I sit down with, like, a pen and paper while I'm reading. How can I actually input what I'm learning into my life and
Yeah.
actually see change from it? So as you're going through each chapter, maybe it's like maybe it takes a whole week to get through a chapter because you're just studying it, trying to figure out how you can implement it in your life, and you're gonna learn way more from that compared to just, like, getting through a book to get through it.
Yeah, no, that's how I feel. Like, I had someone who was kind of, like, life coaching me kind of, when I had started going through it, and their premise very much was, like, getting through the books, and then I just felt the same where I was like, "Well, I feel like I'm not gonna retain any information if I'm just focused solely on getting through the book." So, I agree with that. I also think too courses are really good because they come with assignments, so you have to work on setting up plans and stuff. It's a lot more, like, easy to break down things because it's already in there, like, "Okay, how do you do this?" You know what I mean? And just kinda go through that, so another good one, if you wanna do courses, it's called Udemy, Udemy,
Hmm.
and, I have a monthly subscription because you can buy the courses individually, but it's a lot more expensive. So if you, get that, it's 35 a month. I would say it's not that pricey compared to a lot of other services. And again, there's so many extensive courses on there that you can have access to. I mean, I have so many that I have started, and that well, I was in the mindset of too, like, oh, well, I gotta get like learn all this information. But like now I'm very much on the do one, focus on that, learn on mastering that, then do another one.
Yes.
So I'm on they have like really cool courses where like the one I'm doing, it's like 10 sales courses in one.
Oh, wow.
Um, so that's the one that I'm currently focused on, but yeah, it's very in depth. If you really want to learn a lot about one specific topic, highly recommend.
That's really good. I love that because it's so easy to get the shiny object syndrome because everybody's pushing a mentorship, everybody's pushing a product, and you're like, oh, that looks good. And you start on this and you hop into that and you never really complete something because you're just going back and forth between all these different things that look really good. But if you actually just sit down, kind of put the blinders on to everything else, and like you said, master what you currently have, you're going to be in a much better position.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why too it's like because I've kind of gone through that like trial and error where I've had struggles like that, or I'm like I said, like, or I'm like, I don't know where to go. I That's why I like to provide these podcasts when it kind of comes up because I'm like, this is very helpful. And my last recommendation, sorry, I just like to throw, um, it's called, there's 3 different parts to it, but it's called, it's the Tony Robbins tapes, but it comes with, like, assignments, and there's the Ultimate Edge, which I think it also has, Get the Edge and the Personal Power too. It's like a whole set thing, but you
Mhm.
can literally find it online if you look it up. You can find the PDF, and then also on YouTube, the tapes are on there. And I want to recommend this because if you're struggling to figure out like, oh, what am I going to do in life? How to create a game plan? This is perfect. I mean, I have a whole booklet that I had filled out when I first started getting into it, that just helps you break down your goals and everything, like super in depth. So, another recommendation.
Yeah, speaking of Tony Robbins, himself and Dean Graziosi actually just partnered up with Mastermind and created mastermind.com. And it
Mm,
actually shows you from ground zero, if you have an info product, from ground zero, how to build it up. It's relatively not expensive in comparison to individually paying for all the different services that you need to do the same thing.
right.
I think it's 45 or 90 a month, depends on what package you get. And it gives you everything. It builds you out your whole package, your website, your email funnels, literally everything that you need, your payment processor. So for somebody just getting started, I think that you always want to go to the best because you could get something like maybe for a little less, or maybe it's the same price, but it's just you have closer access to the person. But I would say like if you're gonna get something, like just go to the best. Go to like Grant for real estate. Go to Tony Robbins for personal development. There's certain guys that are just known in the space and proven, have a great track record, and it's going to help you avoid some obstacles. And also too with picking like, okay, who do you want to lean towards when it comes to investing into networking, into events, programs? Make sure that your core values align, because if they don't, it's going to cause some friction, and then maybe you'll just kind of like get some mixed feelings while you're in that program. I want you to see to put the best because like money is a tool, and I want you to see to have the best use of your tools.
I really like what you said about the core values because I agree too. When I last year was looking into like real estate investing, I had a few people that I really liked, but I just was like, how do I know who I want to like be like my actual mentor, like who I really want to be like and take inspiration from. And so I had to think of that same thing, like who do I actually resonate with as a person, like their core values, because it's like, yes, all these people are successful and they make money, but it's like, if your core values don't align, then it's kind of just like you're basing it off of, "Oh, well, they're successful and they make money." But if they don't match, then it's just kind of like it wouldn't be the same as if you're focused on mentoring with someone who has the same core values.
100%.
Yeah, I agree. So can you tell me a little more about your financial services, like what you do and kind of what you provide for other people?
Yeah, we pretty much do everything when it comes to money. Now, personally, I really focus on helping people that are nearing retirement or already in retirement because that topic, because of my backstory, is very near and dear to my heart. So to be able to prevent people from losing any money. If the markets drop, we get them to an account where if the market goes up, we go up with it. But if it goes down, we lock in all of our gains and we don't lose a penny. So we see a stair step like growth over time compared to like a volatile market, which is like a 401k, a mutual fund, crypto, anything that's going up and down with the market. And then I love also too that we have, life products as well, which are very important to have in place. And make sure you have living benefits to make sure if you got, sick while you're alive, you can access this money to use while you're alive to go to the best treatment facility that maybe you just don't have the best healthcare, can't afford it. Or maybe you do have good healthcare, but just doesn't cover that best cancer treatment facility or whatever it is that you want to go to. Now you have the money to do that. Or if there's that one last trip that you want to take with your family, if you got, diagnosed with something terminal, you can do that now and have the money to make that happen. So I just love being able to put people in a better position and help people recognize problems before that they actually face them. Because there's a lot of things in finances that we don't think about until that they become a problem. So it's just teaching basic things. So we start out with somebody's young, we teach them how to set a budget. So we do a free budget. We do financial reviews with people and show them like, hey, where do you want to be? You always got to reverse engineer. First, we got to set the target, the goal. Where do you want to be? At what age do you want to retire? Like, how much do we want to have? How do you even know how much you're going to need that you're going to have? So we'll look at like, a couple articles like Forbes that'll point out, okay, well, you need, current times, you need about $2 million in your retirement account to be able to retire and not have to stress, living paycheck to paycheck in your golden years. And then we take them through a whole process and show them like a slew of different products that could be beneficial to them. So it's going to be based off where they are in life. If they're a little bit older, maybe we'll be looking at something close to like a pension plan. Maybe if they're younger, we're going to show them like more of a robust indexed option. But it's really exciting to sit down with people and just kind of see their eyes light up when I show them like, hey, there's a potential problem. Let me tell you a couple stories about how people have avoided these problems, or maybe people that thought that it would never happen to them and these situations did happen to them. And unfortunately, it was too late for them. But to be able to just show people and enlighten them with knowledge, because knowledge changes things as long as it's implemented right. It's not enough to learn it. We just talked about that. We want to implement it. So teach people the right way to do things and provide, facts, stories, all that stuff to back it up. And then as long as it makes sense to the person, they see value in it, then we'll show them the next steps to put something in place for their future.
That's awesome. And I think too it's like I feel like I'm starting to see that because I just switched career fields. Like I was working at a daycare, which was not like my passion, but it was something I did for a couple years, but I just switched and now I work at a credit union. So now I'm also in
Nice.
the finance space. So it's like I definitely agree with like just kind of that joy you feel of being able to provide people with information and help them with their finances, because finance is such a big thing in your life and a lot of people don't understand it and they don't know what to do, and so it gets very stressful. So it made me think about what is a common misconception you see people have when it comes to finance.
Yeah, I feel like people believe that it's too much for them to learn. It's too difficult. I don't know where to go to find the right information. I don't know what to do. Just kind of people that like feel lost and don't have the right information. I know that there's certain cultures that just don't have that. They could be really hard workers, but if they're not using their money properly, it's not going to help them out in years down the road. So we really focus on helping everybody from step A to Z, no matter where they are, even if they just need some education. So we blow our clients away with the amount of value that we bring by showing them like, hey, here's all these different options. Hey, here's what the banks are doing with tier one capital, investing into it. Like, let's skip the bank and let's start investing in some of this tier one capital for ourselves and benefit from that infinite banking and all the other pros that come with it.
Right. And the thing with that is like even if they don't choose to move forward, like you feel satisfied with knowing that at least they came away from it with information.
Oh, 100%. And not everybody is ready. That's for sure. Timing is everything when it comes to business. But when you provide people with so much value, they're going to always want to like try and return the favor somehow. So maybe they're not ready today. They could be ready maybe a year from now. But we set up a game plan, be like, hey, it doesn't make sense for you right now. We don't want to take food off your table. It doesn't make sense for you right now to put something in place. But let's look at down the road and maybe follow up. But in the meantime, we've had several people bring us. I mean, majority of our clients come from referrals because they see the value, they see how important things are. Once we actually sit down and explain it in a way that makes sense to them. Because finances sounds so boring. Like, who wants to talk
Oh,
or feel for themselves? They get really excited. And if it's not something to do in the moment, we always find that compensation doesn't always have to be monetarily in your business. It could be referrals or other things as well. Maybe there's a trade-off. Maybe they are good at marketing and can like throw you some like, skills of marketing, because it does cost money usually to run like a financial review with somebody. But we always try and find a way to still educate somebody and have some kind of trade-off. Maybe if they don't have the monetary um, amount to have that happen.
right. Can you, I do apologize. Could you tell me what you said at the beginning of that? Because your connection had dropped out, so it like completely like cut out the video and everything. So I didn't
Oh
hear.
my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm,
didn't
I'm
hear the beginning of that. I'm sorry.
See, that's what happens, but we're making do because I'm up in
Yes.
Atlanta, not in Tampa. Got
No
the laptop
worries.
rolling, and we're gonna finish this thing strong. So just let me know if it cuts out again.
Yes.
What was your question one more time?
The question I had asked before,
Yeah, you
or
said
what?
like it like cut out. I think you were just have me
Yeah, I
explain
think
something.
I had said that at least like if someone decides not to move forward, at least that they take away information. I think you were adding to that.
Oh yeah, I was saying that the more you can provide value to people, like give them like literally everything in the beginning. Don't hold back. Give people the whole stack. Don't like limit the amount of value or information that you give to people, because the more you pour into people, the more they'll pour back into yourself. And I was saying that usually it does cost money to get started with one of these financial service programs. I mean, just to have the financial services advisor sit down with you, it's going to take some time, and usually it does cost some money. But we look at ways to avoid that. So if somebody doesn't have a whole lot of money, they're like, hey, I just need like a budget. Maybe I just need like a trust or a will set up for my family right now, and that's all that we can do in the moment. Well, we're going to look at maybe, okay, maybe we can, as long as you see this as valuable, as long as we can help you, instead of it being like a monetary thing, let's make it like a referral thing. Or maybe if you have like a skill in marketing or some other skill that you can use to leverage that, instead of having to pay money, well, now we can leverage something else to help everybody out, because there's so many people that need our help, and we're really just trying to help those that are available to help. I got a free webinar for people that teaches a lot of great information that maybe are just like kind of scared to get started, just want to get their feet wet. I've got free books, free resources available to everybody that I just want to share this information to start changing the world in the way that we think about money, because the government really doesn't want you to know about these products, because there's no incentive for them, because it avoids you from having to pay taxes. It's a legal loophole that we can take advantage of. So the more people that are out there spreading the word, the better. And that's why I love that referral system. And really in any business, it doesn't have to be compensation. Like I said, it could be some other form of value.
I love that. And I think, yeah, like I said, finance is such a big thing in life, and it really makes me sad to see how many people um just don't know how to find the information, and they kind of, and that's where a thing where I feel like in schools it's like something that should be pushed more and that people should learn more about, because there's so many people that don't know what to do with their money, and they kind of have to try to figure it out themselves, and then sometimes it's like you can fall into a pit because it's like you don't have that skill set or the knowledge. So you're kind of just like, and it's like I feel like money is like such a touchy subject, you know what I mean? I feel like it's something that should be embraced, that people should be able to um get those resources and should be able to be educated on it, and it should just be more normal instead of, being like this topic that people don't wanna talk about, you know what I mean? Because it's like finances are so important that we should be talking about it, and we should, you know what I mean, try to educate each other and, like, empower each other to be better with our money and to, like, just share this information so that we can all, like, support each other.
100%. I really believe that action alleviates anxiety, and people have a lot of anxiety when it comes to talking about their finances, because there's some fear there. Like they just, because of the uncertainty, the unknown of what's going on. I mean, it's kind of like the anxiety I had with like the past hurricane blowing through. Like I have no idea how that's going to happen. Nobody can control it, how severe it's going to be. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But if we have the information ahead of time, we know exactly what's going to happen. It literally just calms everything. We're able to have that conversation about money without worrying about it. And I like something you said, like how important finances are, because it literally affects every single area of your life. It affects your health. It's like 68%, no, 63%, I believe, is the actual number of people that attribute their illness to financial stress. And then a lot of relationships break up because of financial stress, whether it's divorce or whatnot. And your health too. I mean, if you don't have the finances to get the supplements that you need, because I could go down the whole nutritional rabbit hole, but we just don't have as much nutrition in our food nowadays in comparison to even just 20 years ago. So be able to get the right nutrition that you need, or maybe it's the right care that you need. Maybe you need, like for example, like I'm blessed financially to be able to go to the chiropractor a couple times a week to keep my back in alignment, all that stuff as I'm continuing to heal it. Was able to go down to South America and get stem cells, but not everybody's able to do that. But if you had the right finances, if you actually had the right roadmap and game plan, imagine how that would affect your faith, your family, your obviously your finances, and then your fitness, and have money to do fun, enjoy life. God put us down on this earth to thrive, to prosper. He really talks about how he's made plans to prosper us, not just so that we can barely get by. And the only thing that, changes things is really information implemented. So I would encourage you to, if it's not sitting down with myself, it's sitting down with somebody and alleviating that anxiety you have when it comes to money and trying to figure out exactly step by step what you need to do. But that easy connect the dot system to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And then it's up to you to take action on that. Because if somebody gives you the perfect system in the whole world, but if you don't follow those steps, you're kind of telling your goal that it's not important enough for you to take the action that you need to today.
Yeah, and to add to that, I feel like a lot of people, and this is not just finances, it's a lot of things. And I at one point was in that place as well, like where before, like I'd wanted to start going to the gym. This was a while ago, and I it's that aspect of like, "Oh, I've never done this," or people gonna judge me, and I feel like it's the same thing with money where it's like people are scared to ask questions because it's like, "Oh, well, I don't know anything about this, if people are gonna, judge me for not having knowledge about finances and knowing what to do with my money." And what I say to that is take that and throw it in the trash, because it does not matter if you don't have any knowledge or anything. All that matters is that you're taking action, like you said, and you're asking questions. It's like you will never know if you don't ask questions, if you don't take the steps, to start looking into things like a lot of people are in the same place, and I feel like a lot of people forget that. It's like, "Oh, well, there's other people that know more about finances than me," and, like, I feel ashamed. It's like, but there's also so many people at the same place as you that don't know about finances and don't know what to do. Just,
Yeah.
don't don't feel ashamed for not having that knowledge, because we don't get programmed with the knowledge in our brains. Like, we have to go and get the resources and learn and grow. So,
That's exactly it. It's all about becoming the better you.
yeah. So I know when we talked, you said that you're really into health, wealth, and mindset. So I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about that and some important things in your life that have attributed to this with those things.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you be here have like a mom that was a health nut growing up, but I used to think that it was all crazy, all the stuff that she talked about. I was like, that's a bunch of like nonsense. And now here I am, years later, and I'm like even more crazy. Like once you actually like, find the right information, you could either, stay willfully ignorant, find the right information, and then go and implement it. And that's kind of what I did. And it all started with, my back injury, where part of that stem cell treatment process was sitting down with a nutritionist. And sometimes when you hear something from somebody that's not your parent, you start to listen to it a little bit more compared to maybe it's somebody that's close to you. Maybe it's a sibling or a close friend, but somebody else tells you like, oh, maybe I should look into this. So I started doing my own research, not just like looking at things for face value, and diving into everything and realizing that seed oils, I mean, the water that we drink, the fluoride in it, there's all these different things that affect our bodies. And I want to be able to perform at peak state. I don't know about you, but I'm sure that you would like to be able to perform at peak state. And if you're eating foods that are like making you sluggish, you're not getting the protein in, you're not taking care of your body and, working out and all that, it's going to affect each area affects the other eventually. So it's just learning how to balance it all. And that's why I really like where I'm at right now, because we really focus on the 5S: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And I've been able to, work on my nutrition, and it's a constant journey. You start small. You can't like make all these overnight changes and expect to keep them. Maybe a few can, but it's just, limiting maybe one thing from your diet here and there, and then just kind of just changing things gradually. And before you know it, now you're exactly where you want it to be. It's just breaking down a goal into like small daily bite-sized chunks where it's like, okay, like I can't quit, Coke or pop, whatever that is, or maybe it's caffeine for you, whatever you realize that you need to quit for yourself. Well, let's start to just reduce it then, and we don't have to cut it off cold turkey. And then with fitness too, it helps with your mindset as well. Like I said, everything ties into each other, because when you start to look good in front of the mirror, you're like, holy cow, I'm starting to like build discipline, and I'm seeing the results of my labor. And you're proving to yourself that you can stick with something, you can accomplish it. And then when you see yourself and you look at it, like, it helps build your mindset. Like you look more proud of yourself. You walk around, shoulders up a little bit, chest is a little bit farther out, walking around, have that confidence. And before you know it, maybe a friend you haven't seen in a while comes up to you and be like, holy cow, like, dude, like almost like don't even recognize you, because your confidence level is there. Obviously your fitness is there as well. And your interactions with people, it really comes across if you have that confidence or you don't. And that's going to go a long ways in making a key connection that you need to make. So I could keep going on and on, but they all tie into each other. And as a business owner, it's not only important to obviously help your new teammates run the system as well, but it's all about pouring into people and helping become the best version of themselves, because there's a lot of companies out there, a lot of people that can, help you become wealthy financially, but it's like, are they helping you become the best possible version of yourself along the way? Because if you have the finances, like if you got the money, but your relationships are sour, if you're out of shape, you don't have the body that you want to have, your health isn't there, your mindset isn't good, then what does it really matter? There's a lot of wealthy people that a little on the miserable side because they don't have the other areas of their lives locked down.
I agree. I think, yeah, it's in. It's so much easier too to like get burnt out or just kind of be unhappy, even if you got, like you said, like you've gotten to that point where you have the money, because again, it's like everything ties together, and there are going to be those other areas of your life where you're like, I just feel like I'm lacking, and it kind of, whatever's going good in your life, it kind of makes you feel down, because like, and I've had that issue too where I've thought like, oh well, like it's hard for me too to sometimes, like I've worked on it, but to like acknowledge things that I've excelled at and that I've improved, because I'm like, oh well, I'm not like great at these other areas. So it's like it's a balance, because it's realizing like, yes, you've made effort, and you've grown in an area, but or multiple, but then realizing like, okay, well, there's these other areas that like I need to figure out so that it can balance and it can all come together. But like you said, it takes time, and you gotta just start doing bite-sized steps, because um if anyone's like me, I'm the person where I think I need to dive in head first, and then realize like, well, you can't go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds, like, and then you just end up crashing, because it's like you're especially too, like with working out, your body can't just go from not having any exercise and eating healthy to trying to, oh, I'm gonna work out 5 days a week, and then, like change your diet drastically. It's like you have to like make those increments. Obviously, if you feel like you can get rid of things, like cut things out, like quicker, obviously do that. If you think that you could, but I just think it's kind of healthier on your mind and body to just like make slow progression. And two, it's like you get used to certain things. So like for
Yeah.
me, I had the same thing where I was like, oh, I don't work out. I'm gonna work out 5 days a week now. And then like now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, well, why I struggle with committing to that is because I'm trying to go from not working out to 5 days a week. So now I've started doing, okay, I'm gonna do 2 days a week, because it's like if you say I'm gonna do 2 days a week, but then you go five, well, you at least met your 2, but you exceeded. But if you only did 2, you'd be like, "Okay, well, at least did my 2 days." You know what I mean? So that's kinda where I try to program my mindset.
I love that. That's really good. And one thing I want to go back to is you're talking about kind of comparison a little bit. And I like to compare myself to like me yesterday. I feel like it's really hard, especially with social media now. Maybe not the older generation, but like our generation, you just see a lot of people successful, and it's really easy for people to, like, fake it, a lot, and you really never know like how successful someone actually is. Anybody can kind of put on the show, and it's really hard to see who's real and who's not. So it's your journey, not somebody else's. So if you just like are focused on you versus you, not you versus some other person that you saw on Instagram or YouTube, then you can be like, okay, I'm better today than I was yesterday, and it builds that confidence and that momentum to start taking life by the horns and really making the life that you want.
Yeah. And I think too, like the one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard is comparison is the thief of joy, because it's like it's so true. And a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people like I'm a person that like I grew up watching YouTube, and there's so many people where they're like, oh, they're an overnight success, and I would think that too, but then with like reworking my mindset and stuff, it's like then I, like, see the work that that person's put in, and I'm like, "No, it may seem like it's like that." That's what everyone just sees, but, like, this person actually put in a lot of effort to get to this point. I mean, years and years of work that just, like sometimes it's easy to just see where they're at now and be like, "Oh, like, why can't I be there?" Or, like, "I'm never gonna get there," but it's like, they didn't go again, same thing I said, they didn't go from, the bottom to there, like, in 2 seconds, like, it takes time, slow progression. As long as you're working on your goals, you're staying consistent, and you're, tracking your measurements, like doing smart goals. Um, that's all that matters. You're gonna get there someday. Like that's what I remind myself, because sometimes I have that thought too of like, oh well, I'm not where I want to be, but it's like, well, look where you were a year ago. You've
Yeah.
changed so much in a year, but it's hard to see that because you're like, "Oh, well, I'm still not here." But it's like, don't look at here, look down there, and then remind yourself of here, because
Mhm.
that's how you keep pushing.
That's so good. I really love that a lot.
Thank you. I know that I feel like mindset is a really like I always when I first started this podcast, sorry, sometimes I rant a little bit, but I had that thought of, oh, I'm not, like, excelled in any area, like, what could I talk about? Like, what could I attribute? And so that was something that prolonged me for starting it for a while, and then I just kind of just, like, told myself to do it anyways, and I just kind of did it, and then I realized, like, I have grown so much that I could say that I've excelled in mindset, and I feel like that's something that I can really talk about, because that's something that I really worked on this last year is my mindset. I was very much someone who had so many limiting beliefs. I had a very bad money mindset, horrible mindset with money. And so I've just really worked on those things.
That's awesome. I love that.
Thank you. And that kind of makes me think too. What are some things that you feel like you've really grown from? And that can be in any aspect, mindset, money, anything. Like things that you really feel like you've worked on and that you've really gotten a lot better with.
Sure, I would say that speaking, especially speaking on camera, I've been going to Toastmasters for a while, which has really helped with that. If you guys are interested in becoming a better speaker, better taking out the filler words in your conversation, I'm sure I still drop some here and there, but comparison to today to back years ago, it's way better. The confidence is there. Be able to look straight at the camera, not be looking off and talking, and all these little things that you don't think about when you're talking, but everybody else can perceive and see. I mean, just something as simple as like looking at the lens when you're talking to somebody, not just yourself, is something that goes a long way. Like people want to feel connected, and you can do that by looking through the lens, smiling, smiling with people, making them feel welcome. That's been something that's helped me a lot. But I would say that mindset is really like been the determiner of where I am today. It's just the grit that I have now from going through things and realizing I'm capable of far more than I ever thought possible is really keeps me pushing to the next and knowing like, hey, if I achieve this, if I achieve that, I know I can achieve this next thing. Like going through the military, spending 6 years in the army, that wasn't easy. Being a police officer, getting through the academy, there's a lot of different things that I've overcome and accomplished. And by having those in my back pocket, like you said, you can look back at them and it encourages you to be like, hey, I can do this. Like I have done that. There's no reason why I can't do the next. And it comes down to, your faith, growing your faith. And that comes from just building that confidence in yourself to be able to dream even bigger.
That's awesome. And for Toastmasters, I've heard of it, but for anyone who may not know what exactly that is, could you share with us what Toastmasters is?
Yeah.
Um,
Toastmasters has been around for a long time, and when you think of Toastmasters, it's just like giving a toast, like giving a
right,
speech, and that's where the name came from. But what they do is they meet either virtually or in person, and every single week there's a different topic or there's a different person that's going to be giving a speech, and then part of it there's what's called table topics. And in table topics, you are given a question and you have a minute to answer it. So you got to think on the fly. Obviously, when you're speaking, things don't always work out. Could be the internet goes out, whatever that is. It's just thinking on the fly and being quick on your feet, being able to talk whenever you need to. Or maybe you have to have that, you need the elevator pitch locked down. Maybe there's somebody that just walks into the elevator and you're like, holy cow, I need to like pitch what I'm doing to this person. And you're ready to go on the fly. So for me, it's been helping me just become a better orator. It helps a lot on my calls with clients, being able to present things in a way that makes sense. Because if it makes sense to me, doesn't mean it makes sense to them. It's like that professor that's been doing something for a long time, and then they kind of forget what it's like to be brand new and learning it for the first time and be able to explain things in a way that makes sense and be able to orient that.
right. And I'm not sure, do you do those in person or like you personally, do you do yours in person or you do them virtually?
I do them virtually just because of time constraints. My schedule is very packed and
Right.
I want to be able to do as much as I can. So with the drive time there and back, it just doesn't make sense for me to. Maybe down the road I will as my team grows and my time starts to free up. But for right now, I stick to the virtual and it kind of works out well for me because there's things that you learn when you're in a virtual class compared to in person and vice versa. But the majority of my meetings are virtual. So having that understanding of like, oh, okay, I got to look at the lens and it's not, looking at the person anymore. Because if I look down at the screen here, then, you're not getting that eye connection with myself. So all those things that I get to pick up on. So I would say if what you're doing is more in person, then go to an in-person meeting. And if it's something that's done virtually, like this podcast is done, then I would say try and find a virtual class.
Right. And so I have two things to add to that. One, I've never I've never joined one, but I know on what is it? Meetup, I have seen where it says, yeah, it'll say like table topics and then it will say Toastmasters. So that's why I said I have seen that before because I have looked at events on there.
Yeah.
So I not sure if you go somewhere else, but I know if anyone was interested, I know they have some on there.
Yeah, you
Uh,
can go to their website too, toastmasters.org, I believe it is, and you can look up your zip code, find locations that are close to you. I'm happy to provide you with my location, my virtual location. It's actually local to Tampa, Florida, where I'm from.
right.
But yeah, I could drop that in the chat if there's a chat box here for people.
There I don't think it's through here. I've never There's a chat on this thing. But, I could just have you send that to me, and then when this is over, because 'cause I'm gonna link the websites that you linked for me, I'll have that linked with this, and I'll just put that in there with this as well.
Awesome. I'll also give you guys some free resources as well that I'll send to Samantha so that she can get those to you guys.
Yes. And as well on my, link tree, which I usually mention at the end, but, I have some free resources on there as well as just some, like, courses and stuff that I've found, so we'll provide you guys with lots of stuff. So the other thing I was gonna say is, yeah, I think for me, if I was like presenting something, I would be more focused on like looking directly at the camera. But when it comes to like the podcast, I really try to be attentive to the guest. So I'm more so looking at the guest. And then like if I am speaking, I like will glance at it. But I've noticed it's like I have ADHD, so I'm, like, very, like, lasered on the person because 'cause I'm like, I wanna hear exactly what you're saying and, like, processing it. So, I feel like it's something I could get better at, but my eyes kinda dark because I also too like to keep track of the time just to make sure we're kind of staying, within the
Yeah.
hour mark, so,
Yeah, you
guys,
can be
well,
the moderator.
yeah, yeah, that's on, like, the host side of more, like, I gotta be kind of paying attention to certain things. Sometimes feel like I'll look at the viewer count, see how many people are watching. Because for me, I like to kind of analyze, okay, like, "Oh, this point, I noticed that a lot more people are joining," so I kind of understand what topics are more interesting to people, which
Mhm.
I've noticed is usually mindset. I've noticed a lot of times with guests when we get into talking about beginner stuff, because there's so many beginners in just any aspect. I've noticed a lot of people are interested in that. So those are my favorite topics as well, though, getting into mindset and kind of sharing, because a lot of people are interested in different things, and it's great to kind of be like, hey, if you're interested in this is how you get started. So
100%, 100%.
so I know we're kind of nearing towards the hour mark, and so the last like 5 or 10 minutes or so, I like to kind of just have the guest talk about whatever they want to talk about. If there's anything specific you want to share, maybe there's certain experiences that you want to share. I just like to allow you the space to do that.
Yeah, first off, something that I'd like to do for your audience is provide a free financial review for the first 10 people that click on the link that Samantha drops. So just shoot me a DM on social media, or maybe click on my calendar if you can find access to that through my link tree, all that good stuff. I'm happy to sit down with you and show you how we can get you from where you are to where you want to be in a step-by-step pattern that doesn't leave you guessing from how to get from A to B to C to D up until Z. So that's my gift to you guys, along with a free book, some other resources I want to provide. But I would say no matter where you are in life, like doesn't matter what happened yesterday, every single breath is a gift from God to be able to move forward and change the direction of the course of your life. So I have friends in this industry that have come from homeless on drugs to 24 months later a millionaire in this industry, because it just changes people's lives and growing people. So I would say get around people that just get grow you as a person. You want to be able to help other people. Obviously that's going to be reciprocated, so be careful with who you're hanging out with, who you're listening to, who you're sharing your dreams with, because if you're telling somebody that doesn't have a great mindset, then maybe they don't see it like how you see it, because your visions, your dreams that God has given you, those are yours and yours alone, and just protect them and nurture them as you're growing them. And always tell people too, if you're ever starting a business, something to realize is what's the sacrifice involved with getting this thing going. And it's realizing, am I able or am I willing to take on these sacrifices, or have these sacrifices, or make the sacrifices is what I'm saying, in order to achieve what I want to. And if you're not, then I would encourage you, like, don't get started, because it can be very daunting. It's a very difficult process. And Samantha was talking about it a little bit herself, and kind of her journey from where she started to now. But it's just a constant daily discipline. And your mind is really just like all of your habits combined. That's really like who you are as a person. Your mind is just the sum of all the habits that you have. So I'll just look at your habits, like what are you doing on the regular? How are you spending your time? Because Samantha mentioned that, we all start off the same way, right? We're all born with nothing there. We need people to take care of us as babies and all that. But as you grow, the only difference between you and maybe somebody else that is more successful at your age is just what they've done. They've got themselves in the right rooms, they've connected with the right people, got the right information, started implementing it. And don't be afraid to fail. I feel like when we go through school, college, when we fail a test, obviously that's not a good thing. That's not a great thing. And sometimes that can get you kicked out of a certain course. But it's totally different. It's flip-flopped in the world of entrepreneurship. Obviously, if you can learn from other people, like by reading books, things like that, obviously that's great to be able to avoid obstacles. But just know, just because you failed at something doesn't mean that you're a failure. There's a lot of learning that can happen from failures, and then those stories can then in turn help a lot of other people from stumbling upon that same thing, that obstacle that you did. And I don't want to take it. It's at the top of the hour now, so I'll kind of like cut it off. But I'm happy to just chop it up with you all, guys, whether it's about finances, personal development. I just want to see you guys get to the next, because our country needs change, and you guys are the change. Be the change today.
I love that. And yeah, I mean, as an entrepreneur, your goal is gonna kind of to be, how can I fail 10 times faster? Because honestly, that is gonna make the difference, and it's gonna, a lot of people are scared to fail, but it's like you said, the more you fail, the more you learn. It's just about experiences. It's not actually a failure. It's just, okay, this is what I could have done better. I'm gonna do that next time, and just keep doing that.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree. And yes, I love everything you shared. And I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on tonight. and spending an hour with me and just letting me get to know you and my guests to get to know you. So for those who may want to get in contact you, could you just tell them where they could find you? And I will have this link, but I'd just like to have you verbally say it as well.
Yeah, I know everybody's different. Some people like reaching out on Facebook, some people like reaching out on Instagram, maybe a phone number. So you just search Caleb Bullard and it's got my name exactly as it is on the screen here. In Facebook, it'll pop me right up. Instagram, same name, but 360 at the end, Caleb Bullard 360. Or if you want to shoot me a text to my business line at 716-863-7795. Again, for the first 10 people that reach out, be happy to run a financial review for you.
Awesome. And then for the Minds on a Mission podcast, I say it at the beginning, but I also like to say it at the end. You can find us on pretty much everything: Facebook, Instagram, X, and then I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spreaker, on all these things. I will have it linked. I'll have his stuff linked as well, as long with our resources. And yes, like you said, the first 10 people will get a free financial review.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys better get on that. Utilize these resources because it's very good. You're gonna learn a lot. So I will have everything linked for you guys. And again, I just want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. And I hope you have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, we hope you guys have a good rest of your night. I will see you guys on Monday with our next episode. And yeah, happy Friday.